And a very good evening to you, and welcome to today's edition of Politics 101. Uh, Today, we are going to have as our guest Professor Clive Thomas, and we are going to be dealing with economics. We are going to be dealing with the news that broke last week that uh, the price, the prices of food have gone up 14% in the first 7 months of this year. Cost of living has gone up 5.4%. We're going to be asking Professor Thomas to go through it with us. How did we get to that point? Is it surprising that we've gotten to that point? And has the government done enough to turn back that tidal wave? And if not, what else needed or needs to be done to deal with this shocking situation? I've said on this program before that those numbers just that working people are having a difficult time. Poor people are having a difficult time. While I was in Guyana for 3 months, I visited the markets very often. I usually would go shopping, and so I have a sense of what those prices mean for ordinary people. And then today we open the newspapers and we are learning that the government is going to give $250,000 grant to sugar workers who were laid off during the period of the coalition. They've already got their severance pay. Now, the government is giving them a grant of $250,000 on top of their severance. And we are learning that the government has plowed $5 billion into the sugar industry since it came to power last year. This price tag for the $250,000 for sugar worker amounts to 1.7 to 1.8 billion dollars. The government has already pumped, as we said, up to $5 billion since it came to power. We're also learning that the government planned to reopen the estates that were closed, have not materialized. And so they promised the sugar workers that they would get back their jobs in the sugar estates, has not materialized because it cannot be done. And so in order to quiet the sugar workers, they're giving them $250,000 on top of their severance pay. They're also steering the sugar workers to go to work in the oil industry. And they're setting up at Rose Hall a training school to train sugar workers in the art of welding, because they're going to need welders for the gas to show pipeline and some of the other areas in the oil industry. And they're now steering the sugar workers to be trained. They're facilitating the training. They've identified Professor Sankat to help with the training at Rose Hall there. And then they're going to steer those workers to the oil industry. So the workers have already got their severance pay. $5 billion have been plowed into the industry in the last year. They're now getting $250,000 each. And then they're being trained for jobs, lucrative jobs in the oil industry. This news we got today. There's a lot there to chew on. I hope Professor Thomas is going to be able to deal with that, but those numbers are staggering. First of all, there is the economic dimension. You boasted to the sugar workers that when you come to power, that you are going to reopen their estates. You have not been able to do so because it's not economically feasible. That is why the coalition closed the sugar estates in the first place. And now they're finding they're not able to reopen the sugar estates. They're admitting that Skeldon is not going to be reopened. They're trying to get investors to invest in other areas at Skeldon, and they're not getting investors. So that's the first thing. You fool the sugar workers. Now, in order to sweeten the sugar workers, because you're not able to reopen their estates as you claim that you are going to do, you're now giving them $250,000 cash grant. You all remember when Professor Thomas said that each household can get $5,000 US, which is $1 million. They jump all around and said, oh no, oh no. I see my brother Winston in the audience is saying it's more than 5 billion. That sum excludes disbursement from the bond. The coalition had raised 30 billion bond for Gaisuko in lieu of government financing. The Treasury. So the PPP is financing Gaisuko from the Treasury and the bond. They went on something up and said that coalition, and I'm glad Winston is on. The coalition is wrong to close their states. They're going to reopen their states. They've not reopened their states. That makes economic sense. And so they're giving these people now $250,000 on top of the severance that they got from the coalition. And then they're now going to give preferential treatment because jobs are becoming available in the oil industry, and they're saving those jobs for ex-sugar workers. They're not opening it to all workers. They're giving preferential treatment to sugar workers. This is the kind of discrimination that we're talking about. But quite apart from the discrimination, notice Marlon Williams, another political person, is in the audience. He says, in times like these, I was hoping the opposition would be more vibrant, confronting the administration, these serious issues. Marlon, I was making that point yesterday's broadcast, that this thing about just criticizing the PPP has to stop. Meaning not stop criticizing the PPP, but we've got to deal with these hard policy areas. Because the PPP is using these policy areas to get its agenda. They know damn well that those estates had to be closed. They accused the coalition of racism. They accused them of throwing the workers under the bus. How they've come in saying that they will open, and they're not opening. They're not reopening their estates. So they're agreeing that the coalition was correct. And for their lies, they're giving the workers $250,000 grant. In addition to the severance, they got a severance pay. The coalition didn't put them on the road without any money, gave them the severance money. And now because the PPP lied to their supporters, they're paying for that lie to quiet the supporters down with this grant, $250,000. When Professor Thomas said we can give each household $1 million, they said, no. We can't do that. We want targeted grants. People saying at the time, PPP said targeted grants, you know who they're targeting. They just finished giving big grants to rice farmers and other farmers, mainly their people. Now they're giving the sugar workers $250,000. And then these new jobs that they're expecting in the oil and gas industry, they're setting aside these jobs for ex-sugar workers. You all see? You all see why policy is important? You all see why, yes, we must criticize, but we have to keep our eyes on the policy? Now we're talking about the rise in the price of food. We're talking about the rise in cost of living. You're giving pensioners a couple $1,000. You're giving school children $19,000. But you're giving your supporters another $250,000. You already give them a whole set of money, rice, and now on top of that, you're giving them $250,000. Who is going to be better able to cushion the shocks of this rise in prices of food and this rise in cost of living? You all see the PPP's agenda, and you see how they're carrying out that agenda. And we seem to be having some difficulties this evening, but we're sorting it out. I was making the point that we have to be cognizant of what the PPP is up to. And they're up to raping the treasury in order to satisfy their manifesto promises, in order to funnel money to their supporters, while giving a little small piece here and there to the rest of the society. We are heading to a bad place. We're heading to a bad place. I understand Professor Thomas is on the line. I don't know is Professor Thomas there? Apparently Professor Thomas is not on with us yet. So, is Professor Thomas on?
He's on. Go ahead.
Hi, David. I'm here.
Professor Thomas, good evening. I'm sorry that we can't get you on video.
I seem to be having a problem, but I don't know what it is.
Okay. Well, we'll have to make do with what we have. So, Professor Thomas, we want to talk about the.
I've been hearing you all the time.
Yes, you've been hearing me all the time.
Talk about.
Yeah, I want us to start by talking about the news that came out last week from the Guyana Bureau of Statistics, which said that food prices.
You're breaking up.
Food prices have gone up by 14% in the first 7 months of the year, and that cost of living has gone up by 5.4%. Are you surprised by that? By those numbers?
I know that, yeah.
Are you surprised by those numbers?
Well, not really surprised, because it's part of a global phenomenon. Prices are rising not only in Guyana but all over the world, and it's partly a consequence of the COVID pandemic in 2020. And the supply chain problems that erupted from that. Part of this was mentioned when we had a discussion with Mr. Jordan, remember?
Yes.
Talking about the supply chain problems.
Yes.
This is a manifestation of it now in Guyana. But there are additional problems. Not only, it can't be excused just because it's global. It also has to be examined in its own right. And most people, when they start to look at prices, tend to concentrate on the role that demand and supply factors play in the formation of price. And in Guyana, you have to do that if you want to have an understanding of it. We have had a lot of complex issues. And I think a lot of it is really captured now, because this is Agricultural Week for the Caribbean. So it is timely that you're having this discussion. And what has been very clear is that exogenous factors, that is factors outside of our control, have played a major part in the rise in prices, not only here, but in the region and in the wider world. I think I could mention a couple of them. First of all, there's weather. If you recall, this year has been a year of extreme floods. In some other parts of the world and some other Caribbean territories, this has been a year of drought. So the exogenous factor of weather has played an important part in the movement of the availability, the supply of commodities. And that has therefore influenced the price of the commodities. There's also been the pandemic, and that has influenced not only the availability of labor in the agricultural fields, but it influenced the availability of transport, marketing, because people are afraid now to go into crowded places like markets to purchase because of the risk of COVID. So we have a whole host of problems linked to that, and that has played an important part. We also have had to take into account the fact that whenever there is going to to be a disaster, whether created by man or created by nature, because they have an impact on food prices. So that from that point of view, one can't be surprised by it. So what is important is that you have to have management that takes into account these risks or anticipate them, and that is prepared to work in the context of the risks that are coming. In Guyana, all the factors that would compound these difficulties are there. The farm to road, the farm to market roads are in ill repair. They need fixing. The infrastructure, particularly drainage and irrigation, need fixing. The services, whether you call them technical or scientific, to support agriculture, are all in this repair. So we have a problem there of trying to maintain and develop efficient and cost-effective production. So given all those sorts of conditions, I would say the government's primary responsibility now is to take a strategic assessment of Guyana and see where it wants to locate it going forward with the oil and gas industry. I noticed your discussion of the sugar industry, your introductory remarks, and I feel that what is going to happen, unless there's a planning of how we're going to deal with this, is that sugar agriculture is going to be the source of wasting a lot of the windfall revenues we're getting from the oil and gas. Because sugar is not and will never be a commercially viable operation in a country like Ghana. The sugar industry and the growing of cane sugar has been drastically transformed, and a country like ours can never be competitive on a global scale. Not only because of its small size and its difficulties, but because of the simple fact of the topography, the way in which the land has to be drained and irrigated, the way in which you have to construct the fields, which limits the scope for mechanization. And without mechanization, and if you want to pay labor a living wage, costs are going to go up. Now, my big concern is that if we begin to subsidize sugarcane agriculture, what you're really doing is subsidizing the consumers in Europe. Because, when you sell the sugar at a price that is 30-40% below cost, why would you put your good money generated even from oil into such an endeavor and end up subsidizing a consumer in Europe? If you were subsidizing consumers in Guyana, I could understand. But why would you want to export a commodity that is so much more costly to produce than you can never get a price for it that will make it give you a satisfactory return?
Yeah.
I'm old enough to remember that before the government appointed me as chairman to Gaisugu, there was a commission of inquiry, and that commission deliberated. I was part of the deliberations very seriously and very intensely for several months to produce a report that was to lay the foundation for going forward with sugar. But like all things Guyana, they go through the exercise of having you work on a commission to produce a blueprint for how to move forward. And then when the blueprint is about to implement it, people run scared. People begin to doubt whether they had ever committed themselves to doing what in fact was happening. They've begun to fear that in trying to turn around Gaisugu from a sugar exporting firm to a firm using its assets to get into multiple ways of generating livelihoods, including fish farming and a lot of things that we had developed, or were developing in the course of time. You can't do it overnight. I was there for a year, but I never resisted the opportunity, longer made chairman. For the simple reason I didn't just want the job, I wanted to do it because I thought that I knew something about what we were trying to do and was willing to execute it. But it was very clear that was not the vision that after months of work with the Commission of Inquiry that the government wanted. So I just let them do what they wanted to do because I wasn't interested in the job per se. And I think as a result of that now, I'm very fearful that a lot of the foreign revenues we're getting from sugar is going to be wasted. Not from sugar, from oil and gas. It's going to be wasted in trying to support the sugar industry.
Yeah. Professor Thomas, I'll come back to the sugar thing, but let's go back to the rise in prices in the last 7 months as recorded by the Guyana Bureau of Statistics. What impact that is going to have on poor households? That rise in prices. Yeah.
Well, we already know that people have been suffering. People have been suffering in many ways from the pandemic. And this complicates it. Because during the pandemic, there's been some research work done by the Disaster Commission. And it has been published, in fact. And by published, I mean it's available online. They contain estimates of the impact on the livelihoods of Guyanese and the cost of living and all that. And it is clear that the impact has been extremely negative. Some people are suffering nutritional deficiencies. Most people cannot afford to buy the food that they bought because of the stringency that they have to face as a result of the COVID pandemic and the limitations and the ways of the jobs that they were in and the need to find medicine or whatever it is or whatever they might need to keep themselves healthy, even to buy masks to avoid the pandemic, risk of the pandemic. So in that situation, I think what has happened is that the global effect of the COVID-19 has impacted in a poor country like Guyana extremely severely. Now, what concerns me the most is that anybody looking at Guyana would recognize in the Caribbean, particularly in Caribbean Week, we should be the breadbasket of the Caribbean. But we can't be that, given the fact that the agriculture has never been supported in a sustained way or in a scientific way. And that the effort to nationalize sugar is not seen as an attempt to diversify out of sugar. It's seen as an attempt, I don't know to do what, to give the appearance that you can never make sugar profitable. That can never, ever happen. It's just one of those facts of life that you have to live with, so that we divert the scarce resources we have for agriculture and continue to pump it into sugar to maintain the level of scientific work in the industry, the drainage and irrigation and so on, all that. We struggle to keep going at a minimum professional level. And we neglect the other parts of the country. Mm-hmm. And that is why, in fact, I recommended what you've been talking about here, the Buxton proposal of $5,000 per month. Because the fact that is driving us into poverty or keep maintaining income poverty in Guyana, two facts: the fact that the incomes are low and the fact that the incomes keep fluctuating, moving from season to season, from drought to flood, from flood to drought, and it's never ever stable. The farmers cannot afford to sustain investments in their land, in their equipment, and to carry them to an affordable level of income where they can do something about it, or even where they might be able to bond together to get some credit. It's not possible at the level of income they bring home from a cash agriculture. The government is
Are
attempting.
you satisfied? Are you satisfied? We talk about management because this problem you say is objective in the sense that it's part of the reason has to do with the COVID-19, part of the reason has to do with our peculiar circumstances here, like the floods and all that kind of stuff. Are you satisfied with the attempts by the government to deal with this crisis?
No, I'm not satisfied, but I'm trying to give you the details of where I think that they're failing to bring a professional understanding of the problem that they have to confront. And if you don't diagnose the problem correctly, how are you going to correct it? This has been the shortcuts that many governments in Guyana have tried to take. They believe that these things are just fixable merely by talking about them. But they require complex attention and understanding of what is happening. And I think the strategic thinking is not there. The government is working on a contradiction. It can't be pushing cash payments to subsidize workers in the industry that by definition cannot contribute anything positive to the growth of a future Guyana. It's a fundamental contradiction. So any direction in which that is the principal thrust, and you pump resources into it, you're wasting the resources. So you have to make those sorts of strategic decisions and try to work from there. You can't just play the gallery and say, well, look, I am power now. My base is the Indian community. The initial workers in the plight. So I'm going to make sure that any jobs coming from oil and gas will go to them. And I'm going to make sure that any cash payments that are being put out are going principally to them because I believe that they are my constituency and they've been historically disadvantaged. You can't start from that premise. You have to have a national premise on which you're starting and you're trying to see how you can grow yourself or develop the economy out of the problems that you have. And you can't do it that way. There's no magic in any of this. It is just simply partisan politics with the new guys trying to pretend as if you were doing something for the good of the nation. But in fact, you're trying to do something for the good of your own party. And that is what I think is the chief failings of these governments.
What is this government being bent in going in that direction? What are the consequences to the nation as a whole?
I missed that, you were breaking up. What's that?
No, I'm saying this government seemed bent in going down the road of satisfying its constituency and its party's manifesto, and is not interested in a national approach. What are the consequences? One, for the community that is not part of their support base, that's one, and the consequences for the country as a whole.
Yeah, that is my starting point. So I feel that it's important for our people, the broad mass of Guyanese to recognize that we have an issue, and I have tried to phrase it and trying to battle income poverty as a primary concern, try to reduce the ethnic dimensions of the political struggle by giving to every household, even though I know that some households are less in need than others. But I feel the tax system will act as a redistributive to moderate the inequities that it might generate, particularly to avoid any contention at the level of ethnic choice or political choice based on ethnic distinction. So now, given $250,000, which is $250,000 to a household farmers in the same household, which means like $500,000 you're talking about. Father and son, husband and wife, you'll never know. It's coming close to that $1 million monetary grant without any distinction to every household. That's a pretty significant sum, as everybody keeps saying when you talk about the $1 million payment. And that is going in a way, in a direction, and on the modality that is very discriminatory. And it undermines, therefore, the effectiveness of the cash transfers, because they don't see that as a payment to compensate the workers for the fact that they're in poverty, because it is not based on equity. It is not based on need. It is not based on some universal criterion that I can be comfortable with. It seems to be based only on giving back benefits to your constituency. So it sounds more like clientelism to me than anything else, patronage. And that defeats the whole purpose of what cash transfer is supposed to do. It reduces them to payouts and things that you're doing to win loyalty to your party or to your administration, which I think is extremely counterproductive. It breeds disharmony, it breeds chaos, and going down the line, it will never be accepted in Guyana as a whole. It will always be a source of contention.
What immediate effect would it have on the economic situation?
I missed that one, but I'm having difficulty with this phone. It maybe.
Yeah. What immediate effect would that have on the economy? The government approach of these selective cash transfers.
Well, the immediate effect is what the people who are going to get it will benefit from it.
Yeah.
They will feel that they get some cash, so they can be happy. The rest of Guyana is not going to be so happy. So immediately that's the strife, the social and cultural strife in the country, because you have had to raise it as part of your discussion here tonight. Point out the obvious contradictions. So instead of doing good, it promotes disharmony.
Yeah. Professor, the PPP gave some reduced or removed some duties from certain items coming into the country, as part of their strategy to deal with the effect of trade in the pandemic. Is that a right strategy? And if not, what would you recommend?
But you have to be careful with that. I heard somebody mention it in my presence, but I didn't respond to because I was under pressure of time. Sometimes the duty is designed to encourage import substitution, to encourage the local product to get an advantage in the local marketplace. So if I put let's say, I'm not saying this happens, but let's say you put a tax on sardines. That's supposed to be a fillip for people to buy fresh Bangamiri. You might put a tax on some imported juice, but that might be an incentive for people to buy local juices. So you have to be recognizing that it is not always taxes because they're trying to raise the cost of living or punish sugar exporters. Sometimes they're doing that to protect the local market. I suspect a lot of the agricultural-based taxes started out with that goal. The goal of trying to create a fair or an advantageous, let me put it here, I don't want to say fair, an advantageous marketplace for local farmers. And in fact, throughout the Caribbean, that is also the practice. That you try not to tax agricultural products And if you tax them, you try to do that in a way in which you encourage the local substitution, encourage local production to come in for compensation. But this doesn't say that it always happens that way. Very often the taxes go on, and people forget why they run, and all the government does notice after that, as any good minister of finance will tell you, is that you get in the revenue, so you keep trying it. But that might have been the original intention.
Some of the reaction
After independence about the role of import taxation. Technically, under the WTO, we should be moving towards free trade, so there's a lot of pressure on countries exporting goods to us. But we're not big enough of a market for them to bother too much. But there is that general pressure to try to make sure that the prices are not raised domestically through exports. Charges being added on to the price of the goods sold in the country, so that domestic suppliers won't get an advantage. But that has been the import substituting model that the government has tended to follow.
Yeah. I was asking Dr. Thomas about the government's decision to relax the duties on items coming into the country as a means of dealing with the impact of the COVID-19. Do you think that was a good move?
Well, I don't know what the motives are, and I must confess that. I don't know if they're trying to alleviate the price pressure. They might feel that the supply bottleneck is a physical bottleneck, and they can't just get the goods to the market. And rather than let the price continue to rise and promote inflation, they just let the imports come in to modulate the increase in prices. That could be part of the argument. I don't know. And I'm not trying to defend the government. I'm just saying that part of the decision making in the Ministry of Finance would be those considerations. To what extent can the imports put pressure on prices downwards rather than upwards? And in an inflationary situation, they can.
So, Professor, you've talked about the Buxton proposal and the cash grants as one way of dealing with the situation. Are there other ways? Are there other things that can be done now to deal with the economic crisis facing the working poor and even the middle classes in the society?
Well, I think if one reads the Buxton proposal as I'm trying to outline it here, the target of $5,000 per annum per household is a target to be reached at full ramp up. That is when we're producing about 1.5 to what I expect to be the maximum that we'll ever produce, 2.5 million barrels per day of oil equivalent. Now, between now and then, we can prorate the rate at which we provide the transfers so that we put in a system where you don't just have to give $250,000 to the show workers to bribe them because you can them. But where the country is gradually getting towards that target. And that is what we were so upset about when we had tried to propose the Buxton proposal to the APNU. And it never got an audience because the idea was not to introduce the, not necessarily to introduce the $5,000 tomorrow or next year or the year after or the year after a year. But when you do that, once you reach the full ramp-up minimum, which is 1.5 million barrels of oil per day. Remember when I raised that, people laughed. They said we could never produce more than 100,000 barrels of oil per day in Guyana. But every estimate that we've seen so far shows that we're going to be well beyond that before the next 10 years is out. So the whole idea is to ramp up towards that. do a feasibility and a pilot study in which you determine how we prorate it. I suggested to prorate it against the daily rate of production. So if you were producing, let's say, what most people believe is a target, and that will reach by 2025 is $750,000, 750,000 barrels per day. But I think that's an underestimate. I think it'll be closer to 850. But let's say that that's where we are, because they're having difficulties with containment of flaring and so on. Then you have 33% of the target, so let's give 1,205,000. So you have a rational system that is designed to move to a national solution. You don't have an ad hoc system where a minister get up one day and say, we give them 20,000, they can be more popular. You have a rational system and a committed program that workers, farmers, everybody can see ahead of them, can plan for it so that they're subject, that they have to be always a victim of low and fluctuating incomes, can be gradually ameliorated. That is the whole idea behind the proposal. It's a graduated, modulated proposal to reach that target at the full ramp-up of production. I'm revising the thing right now. I'm not revising it in the sense of changing any important detail, but I'm rewriting it to make explicit more and more of these features that were already there. But nothing new is being added when it is, I say so. But that is the basic thrust of the proposal. That is prorated to get to that point. So when we talk about transfers, we're not talking about gifts and handouts. We're talking about a national decided program of development for the country as a whole, where consumers can expect as a minimum that they reach a livelihood of $5,000 as a minimum, every household. In addition to whatever they might be able to spend for otherwise. So in that sense, we are progressively solving the problem of poverty as well. Because we're not waiting for a hallelujah when we meet 1.5 million barrels per day and jumping up and giving them the money, but we're graduating it towards that target. Because it's only at that target we're going to be really able to afford that amount, because they also put afford a cap to make sure we don't spend all the money on the cash transfers, and that cap is a tithe, 10% of total revenue. At that point, I think 10% of total revenue would comfortably cover the available, the cost of the transfers. Remember, when we also raised this question, everybody's saying the price will never go past $50. Already this year, people are talking about $100 price for oil. The 3 lifts that we sold oil at for this year alone is more than all of 2020. We can only face a rising source of income for oil because the window of opportunity for oil is closing because we've tried to transition to renewables. And that investment in the cash transfers, I had recommended should be complemented with one other investment. And that investment was in renewable energy. Because I think, and I argue, I've tried to present the data to support it, that Guyana is as blessed with renewable energy resources as it is with its oil and gas. So we become an energy producing nation, not just an oil and gas. And that will eliminate or modulate for me the transition which will occur sometime around the middle of around 2050.
Yeah, Professor, people, some questions here in on the chat here. People are asking, what immediately would you recommend if you were in government now? what quite apart from the cash transfers, what else would you recommend that the government does to deal with this problem of the rising prices and the high cost of living? Did you hear me?
Sorry, you were breaking up. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm saying that there are questions from the audience that quite apart from the cash transfer, what would you recommend that the government does? Or if you were in government, what would you have done to help the people cushion the effects of these rising prices and the rising cost of living?
Well, that is why we talk about the transfers.
Yeah, but the question is, apart from the transfers,
when the prices rise, they sell less. People can't afford to buy the food stuff. When prices rise, they have to buy it less, and the farmers sell less. So all along, it still becomes an income problem. And you have to address it directly as an income problem, because the effects are being driven by forces we can't control. We had extensive floods this year. I think more phenomenal floods than we ever had in a single year, except maybe 2005, at least from my memory. And we also have had the COVID pandemic. These are two shattering events for a small country like Guyana. There are limits to what governments can do. And I feel the government should not try to believe that it can contain the effects of such forces on the economy. And it should do the sensible things that they can do within its means. So that is how I would go directly towards it. But in a sense, the government is deviously trying to do something like that, which, as I said, in a distorted, discriminatory way, like with the sugar workers and the $150,000. They're trying to give handouts to their constituents. Because they can't reverse the effects of COVID. They can't reverse the global effects of the pandemic or the real effects.
And so the question of the income is the income which is the problem, and that is what needs to be fixed. But you cannot fix that in a discriminatory way.
Then you have to have a long-term plan to overcome all the effects that have been there. I would say since time immemorial, that we all know about with the agricultural sector. But I can remember when you were chairing a program at Pittsburgh Labor College, there was a gentleman who was, I think that when working for agriculture, he was the advisor to the outreach or whatever it is program. And he got up passionately and argued to this point. When he said he supported, I don't know if you remember the discussion, he supported the cash transfer because he thinks the problem of agriculture is essentially if the farmer don't have a stable income, he can't survive, he or she can't survive. The incomes and the fluctuations in it from season to season, month to month, and something like that would tip them over the edge and give them an opportunity to create some sort of bulwark, some sort of investment fund that they can look out towards to use to help to improve their productive capacity. That is why I don't think the 5,000 is going to be used as some people are going to drink at nightclubs every night. People will see the real needs to improve the housing, to improve whatever physical assets they have. If they're a joiner, the workshop, if they're a quality producer, maybe your tools, maybe get a little motorbike or whatever it is. Some ways to improve your physical productivity in the activity that generates your main source of income. So the transfer is not a consumption item. them. Some of it will be consumed, no doubt. Some of it will be consumed in ways which you could say maybe is an investment in health and education. People be able to send their children to school. People be able to do graduate studies who have young families and all that type of thing. But ultimately, they will find their ways into investment. I remember that there's nobody in the world that can spend poor people's money better than the poor people themselves. Government's got too much of corruption in them.
Yeah.
For them to ever be able to spend their money better than poor people.
Yeah. Professor, let's go back to this recent announcement by Mr. Jacquio in relation to the sugar workers. Are you surprised that they're not able to reopen the sugar estates?
I feel that from the very beginning, the decision to reopen the estates or whatever it is was a fundamental error. It's an error that is based on no logic. There's no way you can convert that. My concern with the previous government's use was the simple one. And that is that I feel that if they were going to borrow $30 billion to restructure the sugar estates, even the people who were approaching us to buy it, it would be better to they offer them a discount and the price at that level, even sell for $1 on the condition that they would continue to brew sugar. So we transfer the costs of subsidization to them. There's no economic rationale that would ever, to my mind, justify borrowing money, the pumping the guys to go, to ever make it so profitable that they could pay back that money and not go to Guyana economy. That is my firm conviction. I would argue that with anybody. Having been a chairman for a year, I think that was a basic error in decision making.
What about this plan to open the training school there at Rose Hall to train the sugar workers in skills such as welding, etc., and to guarantee jobs in the oil and gas industry?
That to my mind is really gross. Because what they're using the excuse of the crisis of sugar that was there before and which continues to give preferential treatment to their constituents. And that is why I say these decisions end up by being more divisive than solving the problems of either the industry or the country. I think they should not be in a position to pressure the company to choose one set of workers from one sector. I think even to think of putting it that way is immoral.
Yeah. As we wind down on time, Professor, is there any other issue you want to deal with in relation to the economy, the political economy?
No, except that I feel that this type of discussion, I'm sorry, there seems to be a technical problem at my end that I can't see you, or I'm using this phone, which is probably breaking up at your end. Certainly your voice is breaking up from time to time. Nothing urgent. I thought we might have had some other discussions, but we can postpone that for later on the oil and all these other things that complement what is going on. Because you see, even as we look at the situation in this half-hearted way, we still have to deal with the fact that Guyana is one of maybe 5 countries in the world, if so many, and certainly none has been able to grow at a faster rate than Guyana in 2020. And we're not allowed to take any plaudits for that. I think we need to incentivize people to recognize when we do big things. Growth, even though it was half what the IMF projected of 40 something odd percent per annum, is something that is should deserve more notice and acclamation than it does. Instead, we get negative feedback in everything, Guyana. And I get tired when I see it in the papers. There's a particular NGO in the United States which is funded by Standard Oil, the Rockefeller Foundation. And it pumps daily stuff in these papers. Every day they carry a headline trying to decry Guyana. Just because Standard Oil has a conflict with ExxonMobil, Chevron, and other industries, historic conflicts, and they're trying to deny them any products. But to my mind, that is so inane because the point of fact is in the global oil market, the dominant producers of oil are state-owned enterprises. The 15 largest oil producing companies right now are all state-owned. This is a market completely different from back in the 1970s and 1990s. In response to the big oil spills and scandals of the past, governments have taken over the oil industry. Our neighbors that they talk about, Suriname, Brazil, Petrobras is a government company. Statsoli is a Suriname government company. It's only in Guyana, that is why we're calling for us to have a national oil company.
Mm-hmm.
No significant producer of oil nowadays can follow the American pattern. The biggest oil company is Saudi Aramco.
Yeah.
And that's the one we're selling our oil to. So we live in a universe that they don't even understand that is so different from what they used to write about. But you see, if you were to deal with these issues, it might make you appear as if you're defending big oil, but big oil is no longer the major challenge. You go and tell Gazprom, which is one of the top 5, that they're polluting the atmosphere, see what they tell you. That's the Russian oil company. They have 3 Chinese oil company in the top 10. 3 different ones. And people write as if the only big oil companies are American owned. It's that level of ignorance that frustrates me. And we have to live with that. And every day, the heaving scorn and Guyana and this and that. And the man who does all this writing is an employee of the firm that is funded by Standard Oil principally. And he's being called out in it in Canada because one of the 3 men whom I wrote an article about called Itam, who does the BOE report in Canada, has led the Canadians in attacking his false economics. He doesn't even understand basic bookkeeping, false economics, and ask for them to not allow foreigners to dominate their discussion so much. So we have charlatans among our midst, and they're leading the debates in the country, and it just pains me.
Mm-hmm.
Because you see, nobody wants to talk the truth.
Yeah. Professor, but once we get the technical stuff sorted out, we have you back for a more extensive discussion on the.
Because it's asking me things to do something with my browser, but that never occurred before, so I didn't allow it. Although I didn't allow it for us to
Right.
to use the camera. And I was outside your broadcast waiting for you to let me in. Because that was what it was reading. But you apparently didn't know that.
No, my technical
so I hope my song was coming over clear enough.
Yeah, the song is coming over quite all right. Quite all right. But once we sort out the technical aspects of the problem, we're going to have you back for a more extensive discussion.
Okay. But what the guys might have to do is to do a trial run. And if there's any technical thing, they might have to come and fix it for me because I don't know what to do. They're telling me I've never had a problem before. But they wanted a browser to go into my camera and all that. And I didn't know. I didn't want to do that. Because I didn't know whether that was correct.
Yeah. All right.
And I felt we didn't have what I think I feel like I do it from my computer. My computer is right here, so I could also do it from here.
Yeah. We'll have you back soon. All right, that was Professor Clive Thomas there, walking us through this issue of the rising prices, the rising cost of living, and the recent announcement by the government of this cash grant of $250,000 to sugar workers. Just imagine, you just gave a big sum to rice farmers, some of them who I rather suspect are themselves sugar workers. Now you're giving sugar workers another $250,000, and there may be more than one worker in a household. So you can get a household getting 2 or 3 installments of those $250,000. And then, on top of that, you are now saying that there are lucrative jobs, well-paying jobs in the oil and gas sector, and you are going to train ex-sugar workers to get those jobs. You're not opening it up to the rest of the society. Sisters and brothers, when we talk about the racial and racist outlook of this government, that's what we're talking about. You see, racism is not just calling people names. It's about using the institutions and the systems in the society for the benefit of your prejudices. If you are saying that these are the people who vote for me, these are the people who I'm going to look after, these are the people who I'm going to steer money to, what you do is you use the institutions and you use the systems in order to do so. That's why we call it institutional racism, systemic racism. You see, here is the PPP in full flow. This is the nature of the PPP. You go back to the 1950s and early 60s when they were in power, from 1957 to 1964. Under the guise of pushing agriculture, they were able to steer resources to their supporters because their supporters were predominantly in the agriculture sector. It is out of that thrust that came the Blackbush Polder scheme and other projects. So the PPP is in full flow. When they get to use the systems and the institutions in order to project their racial biases. And we are seeing it. We are seeing it every day. Nothing can be more bold-faced than this. That is why Mr. Jagdio says he owes no apology. He doesn't have to give an apology. We campaigned on this. We promised that we will do this. And we are doing it. He owes no apologies. He owes no apologies to the other half of the society. That's what he's saying. I am looking after this half. I am giving them this money. We are in a pandemic. We are in an economic situation that is out of control. Prices are high. Cost of living is high. People need extra income, as Professor Thomas says. The question there is income. Where is that income going to come from? That is where the cash transfers come in. And now the government is using the cash transfers in a vulgar way. It's not cash transfers. It's racist transforms of the country's patrimony to half of the population. That's what it is. If you are concerned about how the entire population meets and treats with the crisis before them, you are going to think about policies that will benefit all Guyanese. The man goes to Berbice and he talks about Berbicians. And you look in the audience and you are seeing people there of one ethnicity. And you are doling out to them. You're doling out monies to them. It's okay. They have need for that money, but other workers have need for that money. What about the public servants? What about teachers? You're going to tell the teachers and the public servants you can't manage more than 5%. You're going to give them a bonus in 2 months of a couple $1,000. And in front of our very eyes, you are doling out our money to your supporters, and you are telling us you have no apologies to make. You are giving affirmative action as far as jobs in the oil and gas sector is concerned. You're investing in training one section of the workforce so that they will be better prepared to take advantage of these jobs. To go into Buxton and Golden Grove and Pleasance and give them footballs. Tell them that you're going to do the ball ground. And you go to Rosal and Albion and Skeldon and you give them $250,000 each. And you set up a training center to train them in welding and other skills so they can make money for jobs that are waiting for them in the oil industry. People, some of us, are thankful for the football, are thankful that they come in and give us a ground, are thankful for $19,000. I'm not saying we shouldn't take these things. That if you're giving football, you shouldn't take it, and you shouldn't want your ball ground to be done, or you shouldn't take the $19,000. But we are grateful for that. We used to ask, what kind of fool is he? Open your eyes and see what is happening. They're giving you football and ball ground. And they're giving their people plenty money. If one family gets, 2 of them get that 250, that's $500,000. That's an investment in a business. You can invest football in a business. So there are two issues here: the discriminatory policies of the government and the way in which some Black people are acquiescing. They're bowing down for these little 2 bits and out. We are in serious crisis. And I'm saying we've got to put an end to this. We got to put an end to this. This no longer can be just about complaining. While we are complaining, look what they're doing with the money. We want the American embassy to pay attention. We want the British and the Canadians to pay attention. We want CARICOM and the OAS and the Commonwealth to pay attention to what we were saying last year. When you give a government in a divided society, in the way they gave the government to one party, to giving the license for the resources of the country to go one way. That's what this is all about. The numbers tell us what the impact on the poor is. The PPP did not invent COVID-19. They did not invent the floods. But their responses to these crises, their responses to the situation is what is at stake here. Government has to respond when there is a crisis. And look at the way in which they've responded. The flood relief, it was discriminatory. It favored those with big amount of lands. The more acres you farm, the more money they give you. Their own people are saying there was a racket that was being run in that distribution of the flood relief. Tens of thousands of dollars to one section. And as soon as that is finished, you come now with another set of tens of thousands. And then you accuse David Hines and Sharon Duncan and the opposition of being racist. Those are racist economic policy. That's the economic genocide that Lincoln Lewis warned about a long time ago. We are pointing these things out to you for you to see they're not figments of our imagination. And the man says, I have no apologies to make. But we can't sit back and allow that to happen. We cannot sit back and allow that to happen. At the rate at which they are going, they said they pumped $5 billion into the sugar industry in 1 year. Mr. Jordan tells us it's more than that. So on top of these grants, you have already pumped money into the industry in 1 year. So they got the severance. You pump money into Gaisuko. You're giving them grants. And then you're giving them affirmative action in the oil and gas jobs. My God. What more than that do we want to see? That's the blueprint for racial economics. And that is what we have been talking about all the time. That is why they want us to shut up and don't talk race. Sugar workers are workers. Sugar workers are Guyanese. Sugar workers are human beings. Sugar workers have to exist. But so do public servants. So do teachers. So do housewives. So do dock workers. So do the bauxite workers. When Russell was taking advantage and continues to take advantage of bauxite workers, the government has not gone to their rescue. Where are the grants? Where are the formative actions? We do not point these things out because we are racist. We point them out to highlight how we are victims of racism. And we're going to continue to do that. But we got to begin to take action. Somebody sent me a video that the PPP made, and I think they have Rickford Burke and then they have me calling on Guyanese to undermine the government. And then they put the fires. And they said, this is what your undermining caused. I have no apologies to make for calling on Guyanese to undermine this government. What Mr. Jagdio went to Berbice and did is the worst kind of undermining. You're setting up economic minefields in the country, in communities. He has no apology to make for undermining half of the public population economically and politically. And I have no apologies for asking our people to undermine the government. I don't care. This is the kind of contestation that we have to have. Jagdo is a bad man. We have a bad man on our side. He want to talk up. We must talk up too. How dare that man giving away our money to one side and then tell us he has no apologies. We must not be afraid to say we have no apologies for taking action. Don't go around the place telling people what to do, what they must do, and you are citizens. And you must know the action that you must take, but action must be taken. Action must be taken. We cannot sit by and allow that. Walter Rodney talked about how Europe underdeveloped Africa. We can talk about how the PPP underdeveloped African Guyanese. And they're doing it in front of our faces. Where is the $250,000 for teachers? Where is the $250,000 for public servants, the people who make government work? Where is the $250,000 for policemen and women? Where is the $250,000 for the unemployed and unemployed in the villages? If that is not undermining, I don't know what is. And if we're going to sit down and take that, then we might as well go back to the Stone Age. We got to organize ourselves. I've been giving the organized opposition a pass because I know objectively what they're going through, having been kicked out of office last year, and the impact of that. But they have to quickly get over that and come to the rescue of their people. We cannot go and snatch the money out of the treasury and give to our people. But we have to make the demands and we have to take action to force the government to give us our $250,000. I understand Professor Thomas is peeved because when he said give $5,000, which is $1 million to Guyanese of all households, Indian, African, Chinese, Amerindian, poor, rich, we had all kinds of criticisms of it. And now the PPP gives 250,000 for flood, 250,000 for sugar, and in a household you may have 2 and 3. They already give the $5,000. We have made mistakes. We should have given that cash transfer before the election. We should have made that thing into law. We've made mistakes, but here we are in the present. Here we are in the present. And we have seen it for what it is. Time to stop crying. Time to stop complaining. And this is the time for action. This is the time to act for action. I'm speaking to my fellow leaders, if we may call ourselves that. And I'm speaking to you, the people. Because the work is not just for leaders. You have to become leaders. You have to become leaders. We have to stop this juggernaut. We have to. And we have to find creative means of doing that, creative ways of doing that. How dare that man? I have no apologies to make for giving away money to one section of the population because we promised that during the election. Where is the money that is being spent on beating back COVID-19? Isn't that important? Where is the $250,000 to be spent on that hospital that the coalition put there and you all have destroyed? If you haven't read the article in the Village Voice News this past Sunday, go and read it. All is not well at the COVID-19 hospital. All is not well in Guyana. All is not well with our people. We have to become indignant. We have to become angry. Because when power reaches the limit that this government has reached, only thing it understands is righteous indignation and anger. Fire at Brick Dam. Fire at the post office. Fire at NIS. Fire at schools. That is not ordinary. And the president, before the fire is over, blaming his opponents, something is not smelling right. Something is not smelling right. I think these people are lighting these fires in order to pin the blame on the opposition, to lock us up, and to gain sympathy from external forces, and to justify Why they're giving all our assets to one side and to get East Indians angry. David Hines and Victoria 2 months ago said we must undermine the government and the place burned down. David Hines burned down. Rickford Burke said in New York, we must fight against this racist government, and the place burned down is Rickford Burke. I'm not into the technicalities of how a prisoner can light a fire. I'm not into all of that technicality. And I don't think you all should spend your time on that nonsense. The big picture is that these fires coming, whap, 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 it's not accidental. And the fact that the government is so quick to cast blame is not accidental. And the government tying the fires to the opposition is not accidental. So David Hines said we must undermine. So we're going to burn down the government buildings. And says David Hines said them to burn it down. That is aimed to shut up David Hines and people like him. The PPP's plans are unfolding before our very eyes. What to do? We have to work that out in our councils, in our organizations. The Indian High Commission writes the government and tells the government to name some street after Mahatma Gandhi. Well, Mahatma Gandhi is a world leader. He's a revered leader. I don't have a problem with that, but can the Ghanaian government write them and say we must name a street after some African leader? Our Indian brothers and sisters have to live their part of Guyana. Whatever they get, they deserve. But if you're going to give them and not give us, then we have to have a problem with that. You can't ask us to name a street after Gandhi. When our people are being discriminated against, and those who speak in the name of Gandhi are doing the discriminating. Now it's time for action. This is not the forum to discuss what kind of action. That is for the leaders to make an assessment of the situation and discuss and implement the means. So I don't want to hear what we going to do. We know now it's time for action. Now it's time for action. Now it's time for action. 1 year, and look what has been done. We can laugh, Irfan, that he can't talk properly. We can laugh, Jack Dio, that he can't talk properly. But you know what they're doing? They can't talk properly, but they are damaging us in our own country. They're taking our money and giving it to their own people to satisfy their own partisan and ethnic agenda. I'm saying we got to get serious. And those who are taking football, we got to do something about those young people in our villages. I have been quite understanding. They said that we government was there, didn't give them nothing, and blah, 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 blah. And these people come and it's giving them something. At a certain level, I understand that. But look across and see what they're giving their people. We're not a football. That's not what we're worth. Yes, we play sports to entertain ourselves and to entertain others. But we are not just entertainers. We are human beings with the capacity, like any other ethnic group. We only have affirmative action for football and ball field. Where are the calls for each village to send 25 people to be trained for these big jobs in the oil and gas economy? No, it's just for sugar workers. Only they. As I said, this is nothing against Indian people. This is against the PPP, which uses the institutions in the country to carry out the program of ethnic bias. And if you're giving $250,000 to sugar workers, can you imagine how much they're giving every single day to Indian businessmen and women? I'm not saying take it away from Indian people and give it to black people. I'm saying give all of them. All the economists, you heard Clive Thomas say, the question now is income. Where is the income to have the other half of the population? Where is the government program aimed at putting income in our pockets? If they don't want to give it as a matter of policy, we have got to force them to give it. And if they don't want to give it, we have to relieve them of government. The other one writing the paper this morning, how I had Vincent Alexander and Hamilton Green and Winston Jeffrey, and how I gloat over Burnham, and that he know when Rodney at one point he would have executed Burnham. So you want a black man to do your execution for you. You all couldn't execute Burnham. You all wanted to use Rodney, a black man, to execute Burnham. You all want to cuss Burnham from last year to this year to never end. And you all want David Hines to join you all to do that. I fought Burnham. And if I were to do it again, I will do it again. But I've been there, I've done that. There's a time and season for everything. I ain't fighting Burnham now. It's not Burnham taking $250,000 and giving it to its people. It's not Burnham giving affirmative action in our oil and gas jobs. You want me to execute Burnham for you. I'm not doing that. I'm done with that. Now, no. Or you can make peace with all your devil. But I can't make peace with me, devil. The PPP do all kind of thing to them. Or come see in their face, do all kind of thing, and then make peace with the PPP. But I's a jackass. I must kick Burnham every day. That's what they put me on this earth to do. And if I can't do it, I'm the biggest racist in the world. But you call me a racist because I am not executing Burnham. But you want to execute Burnham? Do it yourself. Using black people to do your dirty jobs. You all want to assassinate black people, you all use. You all want phantom, black people, you all use. I am not a phantom. I oppose the Burnham regime at the time of the Burnham regime. I'm a matter of principle, and I go to sleep every night knowing that when my side is wrong, I oppose it. And when your side is wrong, you all don't oppose it, you all think it's right, and you all think that my job is to fight Burnham. That's what they put me on this sword for. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. I gloat over Burnham and I talk about Burnham's greatness. Burnham great. People that suppose greatness. I did it at a time when I thought it was appropriate to do that. I'm over that. And I am not bringing on this program Hamilton Green and Winston Jeffrey and Vincent Alexander to curse Burnham. That is not going to happen. And so we are seeing the signs of where they're going. Time for action starts now. Starts now. Starts now. In 5 years, the Treasury would be over there. The other sides will get everything. And we would get nothing. We will be reduced to serfdom. We'll be reduced to slavery again. No chains around my feet, but still I'm not free. The chains won't be physical. They're economic chains that they're tying around our necks and our feet right now. And we got to keep on moving. And so I don't know about you. I don't know about anybody else. But for me, this is time for action. On Thursday, Winston Jeffrey is going to be here, and we're going to be tackling some of these subjects. And then next week, Tuesday, Aubrey Norton is going to be here, and Aubrey Norton is coming. You all say you all like he as leader, but we got to start creating tough leaders. You all got toughen Aubrey. He may be tough, but to face this that we are facing, he needs to be tougher, and you all got tough me. And I'm opening this platform to him next Tuesday, so that you all will toughen him. Because we don't want weaklings in this struggle that is before us. The information for registration will be out by tomorrow. You will see how you can register to get into the town hall meeting. As I intimated yesterday or whenever that we want that town hall meeting to go far and wide, and we're going to ask those who are registering for a small registration fee. Whatever you can afford, $1, half a dollar, $quarter, $10, that's your business. But when we get Aubrey here and you all toughen him, we want those who are not on Facebook to see and to participate. So we're gonna get all of that information for you all by tomorrow, and we're gonna have and then I've got to bring Winston Jeffrey to take, not Winston Jeffrey, Winston Jordan, for us to give us his bite on this guy's Sukkot thing, because he was Minister of Finance and he took a lot of blows on this thing. And now they're doing just what the coalition said. Sugar, and making no profit. It's unprofitable. Close it down. Oh, no, we're going to open it. And they can't open it yet. And so in a sense, it's a victory for Jordan and them. But I want Winston Jordan to come and to talk us through that. So we're going to do that next week sometime. We're booking, because here, I'm serious. I'm dead serious. Now we got to toughen ourselves, and we have to toughen our leaders to deal with this situation. Gabio has no apology. I have no apology. And we should have no apologies. I'm gone. Tomorrow night, Thursday night, we're back with Winston, with Henry Jeffrey, who that columnist said should be taken before the ERC for some comment he made on this program. Henry's going to be here, Dr. Jeffrey, on Thursday. And then next week, we're going to have Aubrey Norton, the People's Choice for leader. And then we're going to have Winston Jordan to come in on this matter. You all take care, and see you all back on Thursday night.
Please help keep Politics 101 on social media and broadcast television. If you are in North America, please donate via Cash App or PayPal.
If you are in Guyana and the Caribbean and don't have access to Cash App and PayPal, email your pledge to dhines6106@aol.com and we will direct you how to get your donation to us. Thank you in advance for your donation.